class. This is attorney season. Welcome again to Human Rights Education. Today, I'll be discussing the categories of human rights. So, number one, human rights as fundamental freedom in political rights. So, the Bill of Rights in the Philippine Constitution contains these fundamental freedoms of individuals, such as number one, freedom of conscience and religion. So freedom of conscience in religion means that everyone is entitled to change his or her religion or conviction. And everyone is free to express that religion, whether individually or as a group, even publicly or privately. And all recognized beliefs are protected by this right. And in practice, the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion includes the right to practice one's religion freely, and the state must not interfere in the internal affairs of a religious community. That's the general rule. However, if you are practicing human sacrifice, then that's a different story. Now, the state can interfere in the internal affairs of your uh, religious community because then you are committing a crime punishable under the revised penal code. Human sacrifice is murder because there's evident premeditation on your part. Therefore, the state now can interfere. Next, we have freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression. So this means that everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. Everyone has the right to give his or her opinion. Everyone has the right to express what he wants to express. So this includes freedom to hold opinions without interference from any individual or the government, and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. You should take note that freedom of expression is a fundamental human right. It's fundamental because it reinforces all other human rights and it allows society to develop and progress. So the ability to express our opinion and to speak freely is essential to bring about change in society. That's why free speech is very important. It is fundamental. Next is the freedom of the press and communication. So what do you mean by freedom of the press and communication? So this includes the freedom to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas of all kinds, whether orally, okay, through the news, or in writing or print, or in print like the newspaper, or through any other media of choice like social networking sites. So everyone has the right to communicate, okay, his or her opinion, ideas, and share information in whatever form. In human rights, this is called freedom of expression. And it prohibits the state and other people in the society from censorship. Okay? And it can be restricted only if said person is committing a libel, slander, or oral defamation against another person. An example of freedom of the press, okay, is when a journalist prints whatever uh, the journalists want without government control. So the journalist can write an article uh, that the president is suffering from an illness. The president is corrupt. Okay, so that's freedom of the press. They can write that the president is incompetent to manage governmental affairs, okay, etc. And that's freedom of the press. That's why we have news. Okay, we have ABS-CBN, we have GMA, we have TV5, we have CNN, we have the news, we have newspapers, so that we will know what's going on in the country. So we have the right to be informed by way of exercising freedom of the press. Next, we have here freedom of association and freedom of peaceful assembly. So, freedom of assembly and association protects your right to protest, okay, by holding meetings and demonstrations with other people as long as you will have a permit. Otherwise, if you don't have a permit, you cannot protest, okay? Because before you can protest, you need a mayor's permit. And if none, you cannot protest. But there's an exception. You can go to the Freedom Park to protest, okay? And you are allowed to protest there without permits. And what is meant by peaceful assembly? Say peaceful assembly, what's that? So the right to peaceful assembly includes the right to hold meetings, legal meetings, okay, not illegal meetings, strikes in accordance with the laws, rallies, events, or protests, okay, whether offline or online. Okay, that's your freedom, okay, of association and freedom of peaceful assembly. Next, we have the rights to privacy, reputation, and human dignity. This means that no one shall be subjected to arbitrary interference with his privacy, family, home, or correspondence, nor to attacks upon his honor or reputation, and that everyone has the right to protection of the law against such interference or attacks. The right to privacy encompasses the right to protect a person's intimacy, identity, name, gender, honor, dignity, appearance, feelings, and sexual orientation. The right to privacy may be likewise limited, provided that the interference is not arbitrary or unlawful. And dignity, when we talk about human dignity, is the right of a person to be valued and respected for their own sake and to be treated ethically, not as an animal, but as a human being. And it is of significance in morality, ethics, law, okay, as an extension of the Enlightenment era concepts of inherent and inalienable rights. Now let's go to democratic rights. Human rights as democratic rights. So human rights are also categorized as democratic rights. These rights are commonly exercised in a democratic state like the Philippines. One good example is the right to vote and to participate in the electoral process. So the right to vote and to participate in the electoral process means that citizens of the Philippines can exercise their right to suffrage, their right to vote, provided they are at least 18 years of age and shall have resided in the Philippines for at least 1 year and in the place wherein they propose to vote for at least 6 months immediately preceding the election, provided that they register as a voter in the COMELEC. Then the right to participate in public or governmental affairs. So this refers to the right to vote and to be elected at genuine periodic elections. So it's your right to vote and to run for public office. Next, mobility rights. So this third category is the so-called mobility right. That is the right to travel and to returns one country and the freedom of movement within the country. So the right to travel. This means that a citizen cannot be deprived of his right to travel without due process of law and only on clear and compelling grounds of national security, public health, public safety, as mandated by the Constitution. So every one of us has the right to travel from one place to another, provided, of course, that there are no compelling grounds of national security, public health, or public safety. Because the right to travel is part of our right to liberty, our liberty. Next, the right to return to one's country. So this means that everyone has the right to leave the country, okay? And also gives us the right to return to our country. So we can travel abroad. And after traveling abroad, we can go back to our country. That is the right. So once we go to America, we can go back to the Philippines without hindrance. That's our mobility rights. Then freedom of movement within the country. So this is a concept encompassing the right of individuals to travel from one place to another within the country. Okay? Again, freedom of movement within the country. We can go to Mindanao, we can go to Manila, etc. It's our right. It's part of our mobility rights. And we can only be deprived of our mobility rights uh, provided there is due process of law and provided there are compelling grounds like national security. For example, there's civil war in Mindanao. Of course, the government can prohibit us from entering Mindanao because it's wartime there. There's a civil war. And if we will go there, uh, we might endanger our lives, etc. Or by reason of public health. Let's just say in Manila, okay, there's huge cases of Omicron virus. So the government can prohibit us from entering such place because of lockdown. in order to prevent the spread of the virus. So our mobility rights can be limited provided there are compelling grounds. But without compelling grounds, we have mobility rights. We have the right to travel, the right to return to our country whenever we want to, the right and the freedom of movement within the country. Fourth one is the right to life, liberty, and security of the person. So this is the fourth category. So these rights represent the core of fundamental rights which relate to the right to physical and personal integrity consistent with human dignity. So every person has the right to life and has the right not to be arbitrarily deprived of life. The right to liberty, okay, in this case, means that people must not be arrested and detained unless for grounds provided by law or unless if you committed a crime, then you can be deprived of your liberty. And of course, when a person is arrested and detained, it must not be arbitrary. There should be valid grounds for such arrest and detention. And this right, the right to liberty, applies to all forms of detention where people are deprived of their liberty. Okay? So therefore, the right to liberty must be respected. You can only be arrested or detained provided there are valid grounds. One example is that you committed a crime. The right to security. So the right to security requires the state to take reasonable measures to protect a person's security. If the government does this through the work of the police, the government does this right to security through the work of the police or law enforcers. For example, if a person or right security, and a good example of the right to security is that a person, an individual, must not be subject to arbitrary arrest or detention. Um, Next, we have here extrajudicial killing. This means extrajudicial execution, outside court execution, or extralegal killing. This is the deliberate killing of a person without lawful authority granted by a judicial proceeding. So before a person can be deprived of his life, there should be due process. There should be trial. And after a full-blown trial, the court will determine whether that person is guilty or not guilty. And once proven guilty, and such crime that he committed carries a penalty punishable by death, then he can be put to death, provided such country has or have a death penalty. But in our country, we don't have that penalty yet. We still suspend. Therefore, if you will kill, if the police officers will kill a person without authority, likewise, so that's extrajudicial killing, deliberate killing of a person without authority. Legal rights. So human rights are also categorized as legal rights. So legal rights include freedom from arbitrary arrest and detention. So the essence of the crime of arbitrary detention is a public officers act, okay, of detaining a person without lawful grounds, okay, without lawful cause. So a police officer just arresting and detaining someone without valid grounds, that's arbitrary arrest and detention. As distinguished from unlawful arrest, the crime in unlawful arrest, the crime is the act of arresting a person without legal cause for the purpose of delivering the person arrested to the proper authorities. So again, arbitrary detention is committed by a public officer, okay, detaining a person without lawful cause. While in unlawful arrest, it is the private individual who will arrest a person without legal cause for the purpose of delivering the person arrested to the proper authorities. Again, keywords: arbitrary detention, it is committed by a public officer like the police; lawful arrest, private individuals. And arbitrary detention and unlawful arrest are punishable under the revised penal code. Second, we have here protection against unreasonable search and seizure. So this refers to the person's right to be secure against unreasonable searches and seizure. And the Constitution provides that the right to be secure against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. So, in our previous discussion before, in my example, during a PNP checkpoint, and then you as the motorist will be forced by the uh, policeman manning the checkpoint to open your U-box without valid cause or valid grounds. That's a violation of your right against unreasonable searches and seizure as enshrined under the 1987 Philippine Constitution, particularly the Bill of Rights. Therefore, it's prohibited. Next, right to counsel. So, of course, okay, any person in the custody of the law enforcement, aka police officers, shall have the right, okay, to remain silent and to have a competent counsel of his own choice, a lawyer, the right to lawyer. Okay, so if the person under investigation cannot be afford cannot afford the services of a lawyer, he must be provided with one. Okay, remember, you should remember that if a person cannot afford the services of a lawyer, he must be provided with one, a POW lawyer. The next, we have here the right to a fair and public trial. So everyone is entitled in full equality to a fair and public hearing or public trial by an impartial tribunal. Next, presumption of innocence. So again, in the Philippines, every person accused of a crime is presumed to be innocent unless his or her guilt is established beyond a reasonable doubt. Again, every person accused of a crime is presumed innocent unless his or her guilt is established beyond reasonable doubt. Example, Bong Navarro, even though he is charged for the crime of rape, he is still presumed innocent because his guilt is not yet established beyond reasonable doubt. So trial should take place first, and then the judge will determine whether or not he is guilty or not for the crime of rape or acts of lasciviousness. So during this time, at this juncture, he is still presumed innocent. Right against self-incrimination. Next. So the right against self-incrimination has two aspects. You should take note of this. Number one aspect is the right to refuse to take the witness stand. So if you're the accused, you have the right to refuse to take the witness stand. And then, as a witness or as an accused, you have the right to refuse to answer any incriminatory question. Incriminatory question in a sense that if you will answer that question, it will put you in jeopardy. It will incriminate you for a crime. So if ever you will be asked question that will jeopardize you, okay, that will imprison you, that you will answer incriminatory question, you just say, I invoke my right against self-incrimination. Uh, Next, we have here rights of equality. So very basic. Um, this is also known as the right against discrimination. Of course, equality, meaning everyone is equal before the law, whether you are rich or whether you are poor, and you are entitled to equal protection or the equal benefit of the law. So all people, all person have the right to be treated equally. This means that laws, policies, and programs should not be discriminatory. And this makes it illegal to discriminate on a wide range of grounds, including sex. There should be no discrimination in sex, gender, race, color, language, political affiliation, or social condition. Okay, because you have the right to equality. 7, we have here economic, social, and cultural rights. So considered more of standards to be observed by the state. Number 1, we have the right to social security, social insurance, protection, and assistance to the family. So again, everyone has the right to social security um, through the provision of SSS, Social Security System. So the states must guarantee protection to everyone, particularly the most vulnerable members of the society in the event of unemployment, so maternity, accident, illness, disability, old age, and other such life circumstances. So there should be every employee, okay, must have SSS, Social Security system. Okay, so uh, every employer must provide SSS benefits to his or her employee. Next, we have here the right to an adequate standard of living, adequate food, clothing, and housing. That's self-explanatory. The right to physical and mental health, and the right to education. Um, 8, workers' rights. So number 1, we have the right to association. So the right to freedom of association is the right. Okay, it is the right of an individual to join an association. So this right includes the right to form and to join a group. And again, the right to association includes the right not to be compelled to join an association. You, as an individual, cannot be forced or cannot be compelled by someone to join an association. Right to organize unions. So, as an employee, you have the right to form, join, or assist a union. So, you have the right to negotiate with your employer over your terms and conditions of employment. So this is the right to organize unions, labor unions. If you're an employee, you have the right to form, union, or join if there's an existing union in your company. You have the right to join, you have the right also to assist. Okay, and the right to bargain collectively. So this refers to collective bargaining agreement. Okay. So um, collective bargaining. Uh, Under collective bargaining, it shall be unlawful for any employer to refuse to bargain collectively with the representative of his employees or to declare a lockout without having first bargained collectively. So every employee has the right to bargain collectively with his employer, and such employer cannot refuse to bargain collectively. Okay. Next is prohibition of forced labor. So very basic. Under the Constitution, no one shall be held in slavery or servitude, and no one shall be required to perform forced or compulsory labor unless it is a punishment for a crime. Okay. Prohibition of employment of children, self-explanatory. However, na exception ani when the child is a child actor. Then guarantee of minimum wages and other support. So of course, as an employee, you are entitled to receive minimum wages and other support like benefits, SSS benefits, Aboriginal rights. So this is associated with the rights of the indigenous cultural tribes or communities. So indigenous people have the right, because of Aboriginal rights, indigenous people have the right to live in freedom, peace, and security, and they must be free from genocide and other acts of violence. Reproductive rights. We have here the right to found a family and bear children, the right to gender sensitivity and biomedical technology, like in vitro fertilization, then right to family planning. Again, I'd like to emphasize that family planning is a human right. It is the ability for women to choose how many children they want and when they want to have them, if at all. Okay, it is a human right. Next, we have here protective rights of persons in armed conflicts. So, provided in the international humanitarian law for the protection of children, women, and non-combatants during internal armed conflicts. Right to self-determination. This refers to the right of the people to be free from colonial rule, and also uh, like the Philippines, it's our right to be free from colonial rule, and the Philippines must decide or has the right to decide their rights. Then minority group rights. This refers to the protection of ethnic, linguistic, and mga religious minorities. And um, human rights without any limitation. So human rights without any limitation. This refers to rights which cannot be limited or suspended even in emergency situations. Examples of this are the right to life, freedom of torture, freedom from enslavement or servitude, then protection from imprisonment for death, then freedom from retroactive penal laws, etc. So these rights that I have mentioned can never be limited or suspended, even in emergency situations. Um, Okay, I will read this case. Laguna Lake Development Authority versus CA 231 STRA 292. So, facts of this case. A letter complaint was filed with the LLDA seeking to stop the operation of the open garbage dump site in the Tala Estate in Caloocan due to its harmful effects on the health of the residents and the possibility of pollution of the water content of the surrounding area. It was discovered that the open dump site did not have an Environmental Compliance Certificate or ECC from the Environmental Management Bureau of the Department of Environmental and Natural Resources as required under PD 1586 and a clearance from the LLDA as required under RA 4850. The LLDA then conducted an on-site investigation, monitoring and test sampling of the seeps from the said dump site to the nearby creek, which is a tributary of the Marilao River. The testing revealed the presence of bacteria. As a result, the LDA issued a cease and desist order, ordering that the dumping of any form of garbage and other waste matter at the dump site must be completely stopped. So when talks on the dump site failed to settle the problem, the dump site was opened again, prompting the LLDA to issue another cease and desist order. Thereafter, the LLDA, with the assistance of the Philippine National Police, enforced the order by prohibiting the entry of all garbage dump trucks into the Caloocan dump site. The city government of Caloocan then filed with the Regional Trial Court of Caloocan City an action for the declaration of nullity of the cease and desist order and sought to be declared as the sole authority empowered to promote the health and safety and enhance the right of the people in Caloocan City to a balanced ecology within its territorial jurisdiction. So issues or the issue of this case. So does the LLDA, Laguna Lake Development Authority, have the power and authority to issue a cease and desist order to enjoin the dumping of garbage in the Tala Estate? So according to the Supreme Court, yes, although the LLDA was not expressly conferred the power to issue an ex parte cease and desist order, the LLDA's issuance of one as a practical matter procedure under the circumstances of the case is a proper exercise of its power under its charter. The provisions which empowers the LLDA to institute necessary legal proceedings against any person who shall commence to implement or continue implementation of any project plan program within the Laguna de Bay region without previous clearance was designed to invest the LLDA with sufficiently broad powers in the regulation of all projects initiated in the Laguna Lake region, whether by government or the private sector, insofar as the implementation of these projects is concerned. Moreover, under the Constitution, the state shall protect and advance the right of the people to a balanced and healthful ecology, and the right of the people to a balanced and healthful ecology in accord with the rhythm and harmony of nature is one good example of a collective right. It is a collective right because it affects the group. Okay? So as a constitutionally guaranteed right of every person, collective as a whole, it carries the correlative duty of non-impairment. This is but in consonance with the declared policy of the state to protect and promote our right to health and instill health consciousness among them. Again, This is part of our human right. We have the right uh, to a balanced and healthful ecology in accordance with the rhythm and harmony of nature. And we also have the right to health as a human being. And that would be all. Thank you so much for listening and have a great day.